Welcome to Strictly Salina. I'm Brenda with the Salina Area United Way, your host today for Strictly Salina at Salina Media Connection. And with me today is Heidi. Heidi, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I see lots of hero posters in the background. I'm thinking that you're going to tell us shortly, when you think about what you do, would you introduce yourself and tell us what's your why, Heidi?
My name is Heidi Feyerherm-Smith, and I am the founder of the Love Chloe Foundation. We are located here in Salina, and I started the foundation in memory of my daughter. You can see the poster right next to me. That's Chloe. So Chloe was diagnosed with DIPG, which is diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. So that's a lot of words. Essentially, she had brain cancer in her brainstem that was not operable and really not treatable. There's really no viable treatment. So she was diagnosed in 2006. She was 6 years old and went through 11 months of treatment. And then she did pass away at the age of 7, and that was October 17th in 2007. So during that experience that I went through with her and kind of being thrown into the whole childhood cancer realm, I realized that there was a big lack of funding and a big need for research and support for families and things like that. So I decided that I would kind of use my experience going through that to start an organization to help other people and to help try to push forward research and help develop new treatments and things that are helpful for kids going through cancer treatments.
Now, you were living at Salina at the time when Chloe got sick? Okay, and you're still in Salina, which I shout out for that.
Yeah,
In a way, to start this foundation, kind of entrepreneurial, that you are working with the Love Chloe Foundation. And would you tell our viewers some of the other things that you're involved with in addition to that program and how they fit together?
So I started the Love Chloe Foundation in 2008. So it was just shortly after Chloe passed away. And so we jumped into it thinking we're going to raise a lot of money. We're going to fund research. Well, research takes millions of dollars. And so to be realistic, we thought, okay, let's think a little bit smaller and go in those terms. And so one of the things that was very helpful for Chloe when she was going through her treatments was the hospital had given her a bear and said, okay, the bear can go and take her place in the classroom while she's away, which was very important because all of her treatment was in Kansas City at first, and then we even traveled to Houston, Texas for some treatment. So she was out of the classroom quite a bit. So we received this bear, and so we named her bear Chloe Bear. And so Chloe Bear went to school and filled her seat. The teacher took Chloe Bear on field trips, took pictures in the library, and would send us these pictures. And the kids in her class were able to have something to hold on to, and they really kind of, embrace the whole having the bear in the classroom, and it just made things a lot easier for that transition in and out of the classroom during her treatment. So one of the things that I thought is maybe I can do something along those lines and help families dealing with a child that's missing a lot of school. So Chloe loved monkeys, and everything was about monkeys. So she probably had 100 stuffed monkeys in her collection. So I knew that I could maybe do something in her honor and implement monkeys into that. So we ended up coming up with an idea called There's a Monkey in My Chair. And so what we did is we developed a program that wasn't just a stuffed animal, but it was also other elements that we could put together. And so there's a backpack that comes along with a big monkey that can sit in the child's seat while they're away for cancer treatments. So this smaller backpack can collect notes and pictures or small gifts or anything that is needing to come back and forth to that child, which can also, in some situations, include the siblings of the child, because they can be responsible for carrying this smaller backpack home to the child. And so then they feel more connected to the whole situation and part of it, so they don't feel so neglected and everything. So we have a journal that goes in there, a photo album, and then I also did write a book, because one of the things for me as a parent that I realized not everyone would be able to do is when Chloe was diagnosed, everyone that receives treatment from Central Kansas travels to Kansas City. So that's a 3-hour drive. So I knew that there was not going to be a social worker or a child life specialist that was going to come to the school and have those difficult conversations with the children and the staff. So that was left on me as a parent. And I knew I was able to do it, but not every parent is going to be able to sit down with a class of first graders and talk about, you know, their child's treatment and what they might, you know, the changes they might see and all that. So I thought, you know, I can write a book, and it could be something that the classroom teacher or the parent can sit down with the classroom and read the book, and it would open up those conversations about what's happening. It talks about it in children's terms, and it also talks about the fact that the child might start to look different, but they're still the same person inside. And so they can have those difficult conversations, and that it gives them a perfect opportunity to talk about the changes. Not every child going through cancer treatments loses their hair. Chloe never lost her hair, but she was on a high dose of steroids. So she went from 40 pounds to 80 pounds. So the changes and the physical differences might not just be they're going to be bald, but it might be that they, you know, look different, you know, because of the puffiness of the steroids and stuff like that. So I felt it was important to kind of leave that format open so that they could have those conversations and talk about those things in the classroom. And so we developed the Monkey in My Chair program and put all those components together. And we also developed a teacher companion. And so the teacher companion is a resource book that goes to the teacher in the classroom, gives them ideas, some website resources, and things that they might be able to utilize in the classroom. There's a few lesson plan ideas. And it also goes through the children's book page by page, giving them discussion questions that they might use when they're reading the book to the classroom. So we wanted to give the teachers something in their hand that they could use as a resource. Typically, when a classroom has a child diagnosed with cancer, it's usually the first and only time that teacher is going to have to deal with that, and it's not something that they've learned to deal with in college. So they're kind of going at it blindly, and so any resource at all we felt like was very important to help the classroom teacher. And so then it also, you know, helps them with implementing the monkey in the classroom and ways that they can, you know, do that. We also have an online application to the program that gives them a way to send messages securely back and forth between the child and the teacher, and they can send pictures and stuff like that. So we wanted to kind of have an all-inclusive way to really kind of send something to the family that they could, you know, implement in the classroom. What we've heard feedback wise is that, you know, this is a kind of a part of treatment that kind of goes missed. And I mean, and the child really kind of, their sole focus is, I want to be in school and I want to be with my friends and everything like that. And the parents' focus is on their child getting better and receiving treatment, which it should be. And of course, you know, the doctor and the hospital staff, their concern is the treatment. And so if we can give them something they can just put into place and they don't have to think about, you know, the connection with their classmates, then it just makes, it's one load off the parent's shoulder that they don't have to think about, and it helps with the classroom as well. So we did start the Monkey in My Chair program. We started sending kits out at the beginning of 2009. And we started just with a few hospitals that we had contacts with. And within about a year, we had about 100 hospitals they had reached out and they'd heard about the program, and because we wanted to make the program completely free. And so that isn't always the case with other programs. Sometimes they expect the hospital to pay to participate, and we didn't want that to be a hindrance or to prohibit some of these kids from getting it. So we it just kind of blossomed, and just grew and kind of beyond what we could do as a small organization. So in 2011, Love Chloe teamed up with The Cure Starts Now, which is based out of Cincinnati. And their main focus was research, and they didn't really have anything that focused on the, you know, the child and the school aspect of it. So we ended up partnering up with The Cure Starts Now. And so they helped us with the funding of Monkey in My Chair, which allowed the Love Chloe Foundation to kind of free up some funding that, so it didn't all have to go to Monkey in My Chair. So now, then we had the ability to start helping local families and start funding some research. So
you've overcome lots of different barriers. And several times, Heidi, I've heard you say things about funding and how research, and then when the Monkey in My Chair, when something explodes in a good way, word of mouth, and people find out about that resource, and how just knowing that, you know, you're a parent who went through this and figuring out how I can help other parents. I'd say I'm very proud of you. You've done a lot of good things in your young life. So I'm so glad you could join us on Strictly Salina. I'm kind of thinking about what's next. You know, an obstacle could be money, or an obstacle could be some consistent funding, maybe, to help with these three things that you're passionate about and you're involved in. What do you think?
Absolutely. Funding is always something that we're looking, you know, at new ways of bringing in funds. Now that we have the partnership with The Cure Starts Now, we aren't as concerned about having to keep up with Monkey in My Chair, since they're helping us with that. And then with research, but also with the local families. What we've been able to do over the last 5 years is, when we hear about a local family that has a diagnosis, we reach out to that family, and we've developed something that we call a warrior wagon. And so we immediately try to get a warrior wagon to the family that is specific to that family. So we find out, you know, shirt sizes, we find out what the child likes, what their siblings like, what the family needs, what restaurants they like to eat at. And we put together a whole wagon full of stuff for the family, with snacks and games and stuff to keep the child entertained on long trips. We give them restaurant gift cards and gas, you know, money to pay for gas, or with a gift card. So we get them started with that. And so just being able to make sure that we have those funds, so that way when we do know of a family that is diagnosed, we always have those resources to put together that wagon. We've also started a family assistance grant. So these families can also fill out an application to receive funding to help with maybe medical expenses, or, you know, overhead, you know, with utilities or rent or mortgage, anything that has become a burden because of, you know, having to go through treatment. With the families that have a child diagnosed, pretty much 100% of the time, one of those parents has to leave their job in order to care for the child and to make those, you know, trips to and from Kansas City. So a lot of times the household income is cut almost in half. And so if we can provide any sort of resource for that family and help them get through, you know, these difficult times, we want to be able to do that. And we do a lot of fundraising with events. And so that's, this year has been kind of put a wrench in that, but we figured out a ways around that. And we had our 5K, we went virtual with that. We went virtual with our gala. So, but we're always looking for, you know, other opportunities, monthly donors. We're hoping to kind of build on our monthly donors so that we have that support throughout the year, so that we don't have to rely as much on in-person fundraising. But yeah, any support that we can get in the community to help these families. A lot of people don't realize that we are the only local cancer charity in this area. So, and our funds are, you know, we have a board of directors of local people in our community that are getting to decide, you know, where those funds are going, what research we're funding. It's not going to a national charity. We don't have a huge overhead or anything like that. So people that want to really make a difference in the cancer community and help people directly, the Love Chloe Foundation is a good option to make your donations to.
Well, I'm glad you shared that because I do like for our guests to share how can they get involved. And with things that have changed because of the COVID, um, we both, your work, my work, having a small staff and then using Salina Media Connection for some of our virtual, our special events and fundraising, and then some of the social media, having some consistent messaging out there on that, and then our local media, how we can keep the money in our community and invest locally in local families. So if someone were to give, if they wanted to support Monkey in My Chair, or if they wanted to do the wagon, they could say, I would like my money to be invested in this program. Is that right?
Yes. The way our donations are online, we do allow our donors to kind of specify what they want to support. If they want to support research, or if they want to support local family support, or if they want to support Monkey in My Chair, they can do that. And Monkey in My Chair is unique in that when someone donates to support the cost of a kit, they're recognized on that kit that goes out to that family. So every kit that goes out has a sponsorship. So if we just recently got a large grant from Livestrong out of Texas. And so that grant funded a certain, let's say 250 kits. So 250 kits went out with that sponsorship name on it. So that way, and we have had a lot of families that have actually sent personal thank yous to those sponsors. And then they've even been able to form a bond and communication between the sponsor and the recipient. So it makes it a little bit more personal, and you see where your money's going, you see who you're helping. We feature a lot of the kids that we help on our Facebook page. So if people follow us on Facebook, they're going to see the faces of these kids and families that we've helped. We always share when we do a wagon and help these families. So that way our supporters can see, who's benefiting from their donations.
Oh, those are some really good stories to tell about that local impact. How about what's next? Things are happening now. Do you have a 3-month, a year? Anything to stay tuned to the program? What should we be watching for?
Well, one of the exciting things we have on the horizon is we have started the process to get a distinctive license plate in the state of Kansas. So this is something that has to go through the House, or it was actually, our bill was written by a senator. Senator Heidi wrote our bill, and so it went through that process. It's going through the House of Representatives, and then it goes on to the governor to get signed into a law, I guess. But this is something that we started 2 years ago, and so the process has kind of been put on hold right now. We were almost through the House process, and we got COVID hit, and so that kind of got put on hold. So starting their 2021 session, they should be able to get that bill through, and it should be signed by the governor. And this is a childhood cancer awareness license plate. So it's not just about the Love Chloe Foundation, it's about all the other organizations in the state that are also helping families and, kind of bringing that awareness throughout the whole state. So we have a great design for the license plate. It'll hopefully be available next year, and people will be able to choose that as a license plate. When they choose that license plate, they'll make a $50 donation, and that goes directly to the organization. The state does not keep any of the donation. So that is, also counting as an annual donation for people that want to support us and childhood cancer in general. So we're really excited that is going to kind of bring awareness across the entire state. So we're really excited about that. And then we've also been kind of thinking with COVID and everything like that, how else we can help these families. And one of the projects that we kind of have been thinking about is having emergency overnight bags available at the hospital for families that might have an unexpected trip to the hospital and are stuck there for days. And so they need those just basic toiletries and things like that you wouldn't think about. I mean, but there's so many families that we hear about, and they go in to their local hospital not knowing what's wrong with their child, and then before they know it, they're on an airplane flying to Kansas City with nothing, no clothes or anything with them. So after hearing story after story, we're like, well, maybe we can come up with something that the hospital can have. And so as these families, are in need of just a simple overnight toiletry bag, would make a huge difference and help a lot of these families.
That sounds like a relief. Anyone that travels, and then traveling when you're feeling really anxious and worried and concerned, there's a lot on the horizon, things to look forward to. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're always thinking ahead. So
that's good. Well, between you, your committee, your board of directors, all the things that are bubbling that's going on there. Anything else that you wanted to share in general about any of the programs before we wrap up today?
I don't think so. We hope that, people remember to think about us when they're wanting to support a cancer charity. And if they hear about a family that's diagnosed, to absolutely reach out to us or let the family know about us. We just had a new diagnosis in Hope, Kansas, that we're going to be getting a wagon to that family next week. So they just kind of pop up without any notice at all. But we want to make sure that people know that we're a resource here for them. We do reach out all over central Kansas, and we're hoping as our support grows and as our license plate gets into circulation and we bring in more money with that we can even expand even further and go, especially far west. There's not really a lot of cancer charities in Western Kansas. So being able to help those families, we helped a family last year from Waukene. Their drive was 5 hours to Kansas City for treatment, and they were making that trip at least once a week for a while. So these families could really use that, especially gas assistance. And with the license plate, we've kind of designated, we'll be doing gas cards with a lot of that money. And we've called that Fueling the Fight. And so that will provide a lot of gas cards for families that are traveling. There's not any, a lot of people don't know that Tammy Walker does not treat children at all. So there's really no options for families, west of Kansas City. So the entire state is going to Kansas City for treatment. So that can be tough.
Thank you for all the work that you're doing. And please, on behalf of all of us here, the staff and the volunteers at Salina Media Connection, share with your board of directors and share with your volunteers. We appreciate all you're doing, not only for North Central Kansas, but for all the families in Kansas. And Heidi, thank you for joining us today on Strictly Salina. We're glad to have you here today. And we'll look forward to finding out more, all the things that you talked about that are what's ahead, happening next. And I'm Brenda Gutierrez. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next time.